So what I'm going to cover in this module is migrations from SafeWord to SAS, migrations from CryptoShield to SAS, migrations from Black Shield to SAS, and migration from CryptoShield to Black Shield. I'm also going to be covering a sites export and sites import for building multiple SAS sites, and I'm going to talk about the Cipher export for doing backup and restoring of SAS systems. So the first thing we're going to discuss is a SafeWord to SAS migration. So the process is very simple. Basically, you have, and I do apologize about the resolution of this video, just rendered very low quality. I'm not sure why. But effectively, there's two pieces. There's the migration tool and there's the get migration data. So effectively, what you want to do is you want to run the tool just to verify that there's things that can and cannot migrate. And after this video, I'll go through some slides and explain to you what can and cannot be migrated. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to run the migration analysis tool. Okay. So it's simply a batch file here under the directory that you run, and you can run this as many times as you want. And at the end of this analysis tool, it asks you, do you want to view the analysis report? And you click on yes, and it's simply a cloud migration analysis.html file. And you can see here that it gives us a web page regarding an analysis of what will and what will not migrate. So we can see on the top left-hand corner here. You can run this tool as many times as you want to get your analysis. So if you see there's an error and you go into your SafeWord system and modify and change it, you can run the tool again to make sure that everything is passing. So here we can see that the SAMX is installed with an Active Directory. We can see that we have some access control lists. Certain access control lists are not migrated into SAS. We can see we have some fixed password conflicts. We have some nested group conflicts. We have some privileged user conflicts. Again, we need to address these before we complete or continue with the migration process. So as you can see here, the access control lists, they will not be migrated into SAS. Users with passwords, again, fixed passwords are not migrated into SAS. Nested groups are flattened before they're migrated into SAS. So effectively, what you want to do is you want to run this analysis and then check to make sure that before you migrate, everything that you want to migrate is going to migrate. And if there's things that are not going to migrate, you need to address those before you migrate. Okay. So I'm just going to fast forward here. Once we go and we have ran the analysis tool, we now want to go and run the get migration data. And by running the get migration data, this is going to create effectively the 3 files that we need to migrate. So we can see here we can enter a username and password for encryption. And once this tool runs, it's going to give us our LDIF file, our SCC signers, and our user's CSV. And we can take these files, so we're going to pipe in here a username, password, and we can see here, there's our CSV, there's our LDIF file, and there's our signers file. So we take these files and we move them over to the server where we have SAS installed. So we log into the SAS environment. Again, this also supports cloud, not only private cloud. We go to our virtual server. We can see in our virtual server currently, before we do this import, we don't have any. Well, I think we've got one user. Okay, so we've got one user that's there. If we take a look at our tokens, we see that we have some active tokens. So we click on tokens, we click on state, we go to active, we click on search, and the system tells us, okay, there's no active tokens on the system. So we've got one user, no active tokens. Now, we need to make sure that our capacity is equal to or greater than the license within SafeWord. So we go to our comms tab, we go to authentication processing, and you can see we have a migrate third-party authentication servers. So like I mentioned, we have the ability to migrate other, and I'll cover the other ones in a few moments. But you can see here, this is where we're going to import our LDIF file, our SCC signers, and our user CSV. And if there's a database password, again, we have the ability to enter this information here. So we point the LDIF to LDIF. If there's a database password, we enter it. If not, we leave it blank. We then point the SAS UI to the SCC signers file. There's our signers file. And then we point the user CSV to the CSV file. When you click on migrate, we will actually, the SAS system will give us an output telling us that the users and the tokens have been successfully migrated. So there we go. We can see all of our tokens and users have been imported, and we get a message that the migration was successful. We go now and take a look at our assignments tab. There is our users with our tokens intact. And if we go and we take a look at the tokens tab, we will then see that we have our tokens that are being migrated as well. Active tokens and search. So before we had none, and you can see now we have these 5 records. Okay, so it's a very simple process. So let's review a few points regarding this migration. So you can migrate from SAM Express, SafeWord 2008, SPA for Solaris, and SafeWord Remote Access. To understand the migration process, as I mentioned, we need to run this analysis tool, okay? And we need to verify what we can and cannot migrate and basically make any changes based on the analysis tool. Again, we need to create a list of alternatives for migrating existing authentication services to SafeNet. We gather the data that is required for migrating using the migration utility. We either get access to SAS or we install a PCE or SPE environment. We configure all of our accounts. So we onboard an account, we set up operator roles, we define our agent, our auth nodes, our templates, our groups, containers if necessary. We then do our import, we validate that. We do a test just to make sure that users that have migrated, we can successfully authenticate. That can be done through, a Radius client or a Radius test tool. And then we can complete the transition to a live production environment, whether it's SAS Cloud or SAS Private Cloud. So what is migrated? We migrate users, we migrate authenticators, and we migrate groups. So what is not migrated? Again, SafeWord agents, login and web access control lists, Users assigned with fixed password and another authenticator, only one will be accepted, not both. And again, nested groups. During the migration, it will be flattened. Personalized data attributes are not migrated. Users with more than 2 aliases are not migrated. Users with more than 3 personalized data attributes assigned, only the first 3 attributes will be migrated. Reserved personalization data that are assigned to your user. Again, you may wish to remove these attributes before the migration. Privileged users, these do not migrate, so when you run your analysis tool, you may see that you have privileged users. I'd recommend you remove these before you migrate. And again, authenticators assigned to more than one user. So some issues that we have, or issues and resolutions that we have, if you're using an authentication broker, okay, users who have not been migrated to SafeNet will not migrate to SAS. You'll need to complete the migration of the users with the authentication broker before migrating to SAS. IAS NPS, these agents allow you to specify users in Active Directory for inclusion. Again, SafeNet Authentication Service does not support this feature. And non-migration compatible data. So data that is not migrated, compatible, will not be retrievable after the migration. So it's recommended that you back up your data before the migration in case you need to refer to it later. Some troubleshooting. Confirm your migration data to ensure your users and their authenticators were migrated into SAS correctly. So again, we can search for users, search for tokens. Again, if a user is having difficulty with the migration and authenticating, they may need to do a resync. Again, you need to confirm that the agents that you were using in SafeWord are now configured correctly within SAS. And if you're still unable to authenticate, again, we recommend that you contact your partner, your distributor, or the SafeNet technical support team. So we move on to the next type of migration. This is migrating from CryptoShield to SAS. CryptoShield is an old CryptoCard product. We don't have too many customers using version 5, so I haven't included it here. We do have some customers using CryptoShield version 6. Now, most of these migrations that are being done or looking to be done are being handled currently by professional services. So let me show you just a quick example of how this is done. So we can see this is our CryptoShield system. I'm going to log in with my software token. You can see in this environment I've got user 1 with token ending in 002. It's currently active. And I've got a test user 2 ending with serial number 003. This is what I have in my CryptoShield system. Now the first thing I need to do is I need to do some grant statement to allow the tool to speak to the database, and I need to then flush these privileges. I now move over to my SAS system. You can see here it's a brand new SAS system. I have no users in the system, and I have no tokens in the system. So I'm taking a look for legacy tokens. That's the software tokens. It's called an ST-1. So we set up an ODBC connection from the SAS system over to the CryptoShield system. Now, a new feature came out in SAS where this last piece can actually be done inside SAS. So we don't necessarily need to install this tool. It can actually now be done from within SAS. This is an older video. I'm just going to quickly show you what the tool actually did. So we've installed the tool. We go to the directory. I'm just going to pause this quickly. So we're going to run the migration tool. We're going to give it the ODBC name as test. We're going to migrate it into the org called SAS, and we're going to do -VV, which is very verbose. And we click on enter, and we can see here that our two users, we'll just scroll back quickly. This might be tricky. We can see our users are being imported and our tokens, and again we have a successful migration message. So this last piece of running this command, this can now actually be done inside the UI without running the command. We can now see our tokens, and we can see our two test users. And again, to validate that these are working, I would recommend testing it against the auth nodes that are authenticating against the service, or using some type of test client. So we can see these are legacy tokens, which are the legacy software tokens. These tokens have a serial number beginning with 67, and we can see the details of these particular tokens. So take a look at some of the migration prereqs and limitations. So the migration tool must be run on the SAS server already configured. We must have the SAS server set up with a database and a ODBC connector. Again, we must make sure the license is equal to or greater than the number of tokens within the CryptoShield system. Again, we require the ODBC connection. We don't migrate or import the radius attributes, so these must be done manually, either an NPS or free radius. CryptoShield used a protocol called CAP, which is the Crypto Card Authentication Protocol. This is a proprietary protocol. It's no longer supported in SAS, so if customers are looking to migrate and they're using CAP, they will need to either change to a different protocol, or if they're using it for an API, they may need to adjust their API. If you are dealing with a customer that's looking to migrate and you don't know if they're running CAP or not, you can take a look under the log file, and you can see that there is a CAP protocol.dgb file on the CryptoShield system. And of course, if you're seeing no activity in that file, chances are the customer is not using CAP. If you do see activity in there, then you need to mention that to the customer that that protocol is not supported and needs to be adjusted. So CryptoShield tokens, the legacy tokens, they will migrate but cannot be reissued, so we need to reissue them with either an MP token or preferably a mobile pass token. Duplicate serial numbers, the utility will change the serial number, then assign the token to the user. If we're using LDAP, it's recommended that we connect the same LDAP from CryptoShield to SAS. Static passwords will not be migrated. Now, because this is quite an old system, we have some tokens, some KT1 tokens, which are the predecessor to the KT4. They're the small metal key fob tokens, and also the RB1 token, which again is the credit card style pin pad based token. We have certain versions of these tokens based on serial number that will migrate from CryptoShield successfully, but you may not be able to reprogram those tokens if they become locked. So it's recommended that customers, before they do their migration, is they do a search in CryptoShield to see if they have any KT tokens with serial number 3120 or earlier, and if they have RB tokens with 2020 earlier. So again, they will migrate, but you cannot reprogram these tokens because of firmware compatibility. I know from experience that sometimes the sales team will provide replacement tokens, at a discounted rate because of this issue. Again, the programmers on CryptoShield, we supported both a serial connector and a USB. Only the USB initializers will be supported inside SAS. So the next migration that I want to discuss with you is a Black Shield to SAS migration. So this is my Black Shield 2.7. Now you need to be running the latest version of Black Shield because it includes the tool to do the migration. So we can see here I've got my two users, user 1 with serial number 00 and user 2 with serial number 01. These are both MP tokens. So again, over on my SAS environment, we can see I have no users in the system and I have no tokens in the system. So the SAS database has no users, the SAS database has no tokens. So this is the location for the Pro Importer. So running Pro Importer minus UI will give us the tool. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take the key file or the encryption file from our SAS system. We must extract that from SAS. So we get the export file. So this is our export key. And we move this file over to our SAS system or our Black Shield system. So I'm just going to fast forward. So we're now back over on our Black Shield system. We're going to copy this file over. We're then going to run the Black Shield export and we're going to load the export key. So basically what we're doing is we're taking the key from SAS, we're loading it into the migration tool on Black Shield, and then we're exporting the users and the token data based on that key. That's going to create the migration data file. And we can see here in the UI, it's migrated tokens and migrated the users. So I now move this migration data file over to my SAS server. Oops. And we can see now I select my account, which is the virtual server account. So if I want to migrate specific users into a specific subscriber account, I can do so. So I select my migration file, I click on import, and we can see that my two users and my two tokens were successfully migrated. And if I click on search, there's my two users. If I take a look at the details, we can see my user record. I can see my tokens, and if I click on the serial number, I can see the details of that token that is being migrated. So it's a very simple process. Just take a look at the tokens so we can see these tokens that have been migrated. It is a very simple process. However, there are again some prereqs, some limitations that must be followed. So the SAS system cannot be installed on the same system as Black Shield. Again, SAS must be configured already with a subscriber account and must be set up. Again, if you're using LDAP with Black Shield, LDAP with SAS, it's recommended that you configure these. The Black Shield license, or here it says the SAS license 2.7, it cannot be used with SAS 3.0. So Black Shield license are not supported. Sorry, Black Shield licenses are not supported in SAS. Again, we need to make sure that the license is equal or greater than the capacity and token capacity that you have in Black Shield and in SAS. Again, the migration utility does not migrate any of your policy settings, like your user lockout or unlock, your token templates, any of these settings, your synchronization settings. These settings are not migrated. Again, the migration utility does not import radius attributes or clients. This must be manually done if you're using IAS or NPS or free radius. All the SAS 2 or the Black Shield agents are compatible with SAS 3. If a duplicate serial number is detected, the migration utility will change the serial number then assign it to the user. Static password enabled users will be migrated. Okay. Black Shield operators must have full access control to be migrated as SAS operators, and SAS operators who do not have full access will be demoted to regular users. If you have outstanding provisioning tasks in Black Shield, the migration agent will fail. So I've done a number of migrations, and I know that I spoke with Zaid yesterday about this. I've asked with Jira, with a ticket, if we could have some type of migration analysis tool like we have for SafeWord. Because I'm finding that there are some things that the migration agent will fail, and unfortunately there's no really nice verbose output in the migration window that tells us, why it's failing. Effectively, it just stops on a serial number. And what we have to do is start poking around in the database to find out, why this is happening. So just as a best practice based on experience, remove all provisioning tasks in Black Shield before you migrate. Remove all operators in Black Shield before you migrate. So go to the Operators tab and make a note of who is an operator, because again, the operator functionality in SAS is much different than in Black Shield. I also remove all users with passwords in Black Shield, or make a note of them before we migrate them into SAS. And hopefully, I use the word hopefully simply because I'm still learning about I guess how finicky the migration agent is. Hopefully the migration will be successful. Now I've put in this last video simply because we still have some legacy 6X customers that are looking to migrate to SAS Cloud, and to migrate to SAS Cloud, we do require them to be running the latest version, or migrating the database to the latest version of Black Shield. Oops. So again, this is an older video that I generated. It just takes you through this process. So again, we have our users and we have our tokens. I'm just going to go through this quickly because it's very similar. We provide our grant statements. We flush the privilege. We then move over to our Black Shield system. In this case, we can see we have existing Black Shield user with existing tokens. Again, it is recommended if you have a customer that's looking to migrate from CryptoShield and or Black Shield, it is recommended, or it's best practice, that you engage the professional services team. Specifically if they're going from CryptoShield to cloud, because there is no migration straight to cloud. You have to move the database from a CryptoShield database to Black Shield, and then with the help of SAS operations, we can then import the exported data from Black Shield into a specific subscriber company within SAS. So again, we're going to run the tool, the migration tool again, and we can see that our users have been migrated and our tokens have been migrated. And if we now take a look inside of our Black Shield system, we should now see we have our new users, which are called CryptoShield users. These are the legacy tokens that I mentioned before. In SAS, these tokens will migrate, but they can't be reissued. So it's recommended that we replace them with a MP or Mobile Pass in SAS. We take a look at our tokens. You can see we have some tokens that have been migrated over. These are our existing tokens. If we take a look at our legacy tokens, we can see those legacy tokens from CryptoShield have been migrated over. Again, there are some prereqs and limitations. Again, you can the migration tool must be run on a Black Shield system that's already set up. You must have a license that's greater than, equal or greater than capacity and tokens. We do require an ODBC data connection. We don't migrate radius attributes or clients. We don't support the CAT protocol. Software tokens are imported. They're basically, CryptoShield software tokens are imported and marked as version 6X legacy tokens inside the Black Shield database. Again, if duplicates are found, the migration utility will assign a new serial number. It's recommended that Black Shield is connected to an LDAP, the same LDAP that the CryptoShield, if it was used. Static password-enabled users will not be enabled as static password users in Black Shield. Again, we have the limitation on the historical tokens, the 3120X or earlier for KT1, and the 2020X or earlier for RB1. And again, the serial initializers are not supported in Black Shield. Only the USB initializers are supported. So we now move on to sites. And sites are effectively, when I'm building a SAS environment and I have a primary site and I want to stand up a secondary Black Shield site, I would basically perform these steps to build that second site. Or if I have a primary and secondary site and my customer would like to have a remote self-service or self-enrollment in their DMZ for enrolling tokens from outside their network, again, we would set up a SAS site. Okay? So it's best practice to set up your first site, configure everything on your first site before you start exporting and importing additional sites. So changes or additions must be configured on the primary SAS site prior to configuring any other sites. These include your database connection, your SQL, your exporting of the site key, your importing of the site key, and again, ensure the following configuration is using host names or IP, which is your SQL or your SQL user source. And that's what, like I mentioned at the beginning, please make sure to use your IP anywhere. Don't use localhost. So there's two steps for doing sites. The first one is a site export. So under the Systems tab, under the Setup module, you'll see we have a sites. So we simply export. You can see here we save the file key and we save the sites file. Now what I would do is I would install on the second server, whether it's a second SAS site or a site in the DMZ, I would install SAS like I would normally. So go through the installer. Again, if I'm using a customer's database, I would do a custom install and not install Postgres. Once I then log into SAS the first time, usually the first thing we would do is we would connect to the database, we would add a license, configure SMTP. We would not do this or not need to do this because we have the ability to import the site record. So when we click on the site record, we also have the ability where we can export, we can now import. So we import our files, our configuration file and our file key. We click on import, and what should happen if this is a successful site import is it should ask you to log out. If it does not ask you to log out, there's something wrong with that site import. So check the connection firewalls to the database and check that you have not used localhost. I'm just going to show you this just quickly, just so you can see what an import looks like. I'm going to log into my SAS system. I'm going to click on sites. Just bear with me 1 second. So I built my second SAS site, and like I mentioned, usually at this stage we would be on the primary, for example, we would go through and connect to the database, add the license, connect to an SMTP, validate our 3 URLs, and begin the onboarding process. Well, it's not needed on a second site because you can see here we have a sites entity here under setup. I would then have the two files. So I have my file key. So if I open up this key, there's my key. I'm going to copy this to my clipboard, and I'm going to point to the file. So this is my site file. I then paste in my file key, and I click on Import Site. As I said, if you see this message, which is a successfully imported a site, please log in again. This is good news because it means the site has successfully been imported. If it just refreshes you back to the same page, it means that the site has not been successfully imported. So I would recommend checking to see if there's any firewall between the site and the database, or check that localhost is not being used. So when you log in again, you can verify that the site has been active. Simply, you log in, you'll see that the system is ready to go, and it's built based on the settings from the first system. So we've got all our connections. If I take a look under sites, you will see if I scroll down, you can see I currently have two sites. One is my primary and one is my secondary. Now the sites, let me just explain one more thing. The number of sites that you have here, these are defined by the license. So if you take a look at the system configuration details of a SAS system, and you take a look at the license,
Hey, Simone.
you will see that part of the license includes the number of sites that you can have. So that's sites. Again, just be aware that if you don't see that message asking you to log out, please just validate that the site is being configured properly. The next thing I want to talk about is the Cypher export for backup and restoring. So to backup and restore a SAS server or a private cloud server, in the event of some type of hardware failure, two steps must be completed. So you must have a full backup of the database, okay, and depending on what database you're using, refer to that vendor's documentation on how to successfully back it up. The second thing is the Cypher export tool must be run on all servers to export its configuration. And again, we recommend we keep this data safe in a safe location. So under Program Files, CryptoCard, Black Shield, Cypher Export, we have a file in there called cypherexport.exe. So from an administrative command prompt, we're going to run the command. So in this case, I'm going to run cypherexport.exe, export, and then a file name. So we can see here in this DOS window, I'm running the cypherexport.exe, export, and I'm using cypher-export.txt. So we then copy the value from the export file key. Okay, so you can see here I have my export file key. Take both text files. In this example, I would take my cypherexport.txt and my cypherexport file key.txt, put them in a secure location. So in the event of a hardware failure, to restore the Black Shield system to the same system or to a new system, we must use the Cypher export tool to import the Black Shield configuration. So again, we're going to open up an administrative command prompt. We're going to copy the Cypher export text, or the text files that we created in the first step, and the Cypher export tool to the new system. And we're going to run the command cypherexport.exe, import the text file, and then export file key value. And we can see here is my example. And then after the command completes, you should see a message in the DOS box that the Cypher has been imported. And we can now log into the SAS console to continue with our configuration. Now, one of the things that we get a lot of in professional services or even in pre-sales is customers ask us to assist them with setting up replication. Now, we try to use existing infrastructure when we do installation with customers. It's not always the case, but in a large percentage of the cases, when I do a professional services engagement, I'll have some out-of-scope message such as installation, configuration, and replication of your database is outside of the scope. And we're using the customer's existing infrastructure. We try to leverage what they've got, and we try to make it's their responsibility to set up replication. Now, in certain cases, customers will not have an existing environment, and they may require us to set things up for them. This is a reference document. Please do not send this out to customers. This is simply for your own information, or if you want to build your own lab and set up peer-to-peer transactional replication, you can use this document. This is a PS document. It's not for customer viewing. I'll just quickly show you. It is quite a long document. It's about 90 pages, and effectively it takes you through the steps on setting up. In this case, it's 2 SAS servers, Microsoft SQL 2008 R2, and effectively it takes you through every single step that you would need in order to set up this replication. Okay, so please use it for yourself for learning purposes or maybe for troubleshooting a customer, but please do not send this document to a customer because it's simply a reference document. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about just before we get into any question and answer session is I want to just talk about what's encrypted inside the database. So we have data at rest, data in transport. So the following items are considered secrets and are protected by an encryption scheme. So the elements are token records, authentication state, the in case of emergency activation information, the license information, temporary passwords for self-service, the SMTP passwords, token validator keys, ICE capacity, radius shared secrets, the configuration of SFTP, SCP, or FTP for transferring data from SAS, user passwords, and emergency passwords. Now, all data or secrets which should be encrypted in the list above, which I just mentioned, are protected using software-based keys. This key, in turn, is encrypted using the data protection API of the SAS server. This key is generated during the install of the SAS server and is tied to the database server. The DP API is a pair of function calls that provide operating system level data protection services to user and system processes. By operating system level, we mean a service that is provided by the operating system itself and does not require any additional libraries. By data protection, we mean the service that provides confidentiality of data using encryption. Administrators have access only to the users that belong to their account. The sensitive information related to each account is stored with an AES 256 encryption key, and any attempt to access information in the service database requires an encryption key. The encryption keys are not, the encryption keys need not only for reading the data, but also for copying, moving, deleted, restoring rows in the database. Additionally, the private cloud installs third-party database encryption can be used on supported databases as long as they are independent of SAS and do not interfere with the SAS application operations. We talk about data in motion. So all communication between our agents and SAS are encrypted with AES 256 encryption. In addition, we have SSL between the agents and our Active Directory, and again, AES key exchange is done using an AES key wrapper using RSA 1024-bit keys. All information passed from the client to the server is encrypted using a random AES 256 key. The key used changed every time any information is sent. And there are at least 2 keys per sync, for example, the sync agent, as there are at least 2 pieces of information sent each sync. A random key is encrypted and sent as the header to the encrypted data. It is protected by the isometric key 1024, unique to that account that is syncing. The key is randomly generated when the account is created. As a header to the previous data, a unique string is encrypted using RSA 1024 symmetric key. The string is randomly generated when the account is created and is unique to the account. It is truly random and is not a hash or encryption of some meaningful identifier. Again, the key is randomly generated for each independent SAS server. So this includes the SAS PCE B section, where we've covered migration, we've covered sites, we've covered cipher keys, and some information about the database. Do we have any questions about SAS PCE Section 1B?